Thank you, Doc. I'm glad to see my sons are here for support, so good job, boys. The threat paid off. As Dan said, my name is Joe Carieri. I'm a Viewpoint parent, chairman of the board of trustees, and a businessman. I've been in the finance industry for the last 30 years. My clients are large, sophisticated institutional investors. They're in the market every day taking what we call calculated risk. They do analysis, they understand the scenarios, they understand what's at risk, and how much they could win or lose. Here's a quote from General George Patton: "Take calculated risk. That's quite different from being rash." I'm here today not to talk about being rash or being reckless or taking uncalculated risks, but take a risk. Step out of your comfort zone. Try a new instrument, a new food, a new haircut, a new subject, a new language. Ask that boy or girl on a date or a prom. I want you to think about getting out of there. Don't be afraid to fail. Let's take some risks. I think everybody knows who this guy is. If not, I gave you a hint in the corner. Mark Zuckerberg. If you saw the movie Social Network, you know what he's about. You know what kind of risks he took. Show of hands, not that I could see, but how many people are on Facebook? Enough said. His risk paid off. This is what Mark has to say about taking risk. Biggest risk is not taking any risk. In a world that's changing really quickly, the only strategy that is guaranteed to fail is not taking risks. It's a great idea. I want to share with you a little bit of, about myself, some of the risks that I've taken in my life, how they played out, some good, some not so good. So if you'll indulge me, let's go on a journey back to Brooklyn, New York. That's my house, where I grew up. Two things I'll ask you to take notice of. One, the lack of a green surface called grass, with the exception of maybe the weeds coming out of the cracks in the front, and the security bars on the window. I grew up in New York, big sports fan. I root for all the New York teams, love them all, except there's one team that's not from New York that I love a lot, and it's the Lakers. When I was growing up, Jerry West was the man. Look at those shorts. Ms. Fuller, I think we have a dress code violation here, clearly. But I love the Jerry West Lakers, but what I really loved were the Showtime Lakers in the 80s, led by this guy, Earvin Magic Johnson. Let me tell you a story about Magic when he took a risk. It was the 79-80 championship game against the 76ers. Kareem Abdul-Jabbar, the captain, went down with an injury. Game 6, the closeout game, the coach comes to Magic and says, "I need you to play center tonight." He says, "Coach, I'm a 20-year-old point guard. I don't play center." He says, "Magic, come out of your comfort zone, take a risk, let's do it." He scores 42 points, 15 rebounds, 7 assists. Lakers win the championship. Look at that face. That's when the legend of Magic Johnson was born, that night, when he got out of his comfort zone and did something and he took a chance. This is what he has to say about risk. You always run a risk, but I think the positives outweigh the risk. Life itself is a risk. I'm not worried about that. If I was concerned about that, I wouldn't be up here. Pretty poignant. I want to talk about the first real risk that I had to take in my life, and some of you in the audience, the seniors in particular, this is going to be pertinent for you because you're going to be faced with this challenge in the next few months about getting out of the bubble, getting out of the comfort zone, and going away to school. Famous actor Alan Alda says, "You have to leave the city of your comfort and go into the wilderness of your intuition. You can't get there by bus, only by hard work and risk, and by not quite knowing what you're doing. What you'll discover will be wonderful. What you'll discover will be yourself." I ask the seniors to think about that as you're faced with where you want to go to school next year. I was 25 years old. I was living in New York, Avenue J and East 100th Street. I was given an opportunity as a young 25-year-old to move to Beverly Hills, California to take a job. You saw my house. Wasn't really too hard of a decision. But what I did do was leave the comforts of my home, my family, everything that I knew for my entire life to say I'm going to take a chance. It was the second best decision I ever made in my life by moving to Beverly Hills, and when I got there, my career really took off. Let me tell you about the first best decision that I ever made. And again, it involved risk, but not a calculated risk, but more about a risk of the heart. Wayne Gretzky, you always miss 100% of the shots you don't take. I'll take you a quick story. 1986, I'm living out here a few months. I'm invited to a party by a girl that I work with. I take my roommate and another friend. We're at the party having a good time. In walks this girl. I said to my roommate, "Dude, check this girl out." By the way, we were using dude, even though we were from New York. We wanted to fit in. He comes back to me and says, "Dude, no way. That girl is so out of your league. Forget it." So I took a shot of courage, literally and figuratively, went up to her and I talked to her. I lost connection with her that night. 3 weeks later, I see her at traffic school. I go up to her at the break. I ask her for a number. She says no. Over the course of the next year or so, she's calling the office, talking to her girlfriend, and I keep insisting to try to get myself into the mix. I was persistent. I wouldn't take no for an answer. 18 months later, there we are. Look at that head of hair, huh? I'm loving it. So Mara and I are married. We're faced with another opportunity. My career's going okay, but the company I'm working for is about to go out of business. I get an opportunity for Mara and I to go to Boston. We're taking a calculated risk here. What do we want to do? But we say to ourselves, we have nothing to lose. Let's go for it. Turns out it wasn't that good of a decision. We get to Boston. It's the winter, 36 degrees, 36 inches of snow, 18 degrees, and my wife becomes pregnant. The job wasn't everything I thought it was going to be, and we said, you know what? It's not working out. We took a chance, no regrets. Let's go back to California, which we did. But this is when it gets interesting. I came back in '93 when the recession was going on. My wife was about to give birth. I had no job, no health insurance, no house. We were living with her parents. What do? President Bill Clinton talks about adversity, and I think this is what's key to really determines the character of an individual. If you live long enough, you'll make mistakes, but if you learn from them, you'll be a better person. It's how you handle adversity, not how it affects you. The main thing is never quit, never quit, never quit. So this is an important lesson, I hope, for the students in the room, that when you are faced with adversity and failure, and you will be during the course of your life, it's how you deal with that, how you rebound from that, and how you persevere to move forward. Next chapter in my career, I took a job where I've been for the last 18 years at Western Asset. I helped grow that business, very fruitful. It was a great opportunity. I really enjoyed doing that. I'm 52 years old. A few months ago, I was offered another opportunity to take a risk. Trust Company of the West, TCW. You may know the building downtown across the street from the Staples Center. I get a call and somebody says, hey, leave your comfort zone, leave the place you've been for the last 18 years, take a risk with me, let's build this business. The stakes are a little bit higher now. I have a wife, I have 3 children in school, I have a mortgage. The stakes are a little bit higher. What you'll find in life as you continue to proceed, the risks are always there. What you have to quantify is, what do I have to lose, and is this risk worth it? And right now at your stage in your lives, and I'm talking to the students in the room, you've got really nothing to lose. Take that risk, take that chance. You don't want to say to yourself at the end of the day, what if I didn't do that? We can't talk about risk without this guy. He is the man when it comes to risk taking. In fact, everyone in this room, I will guarantee you, has some kind of Apple product in their possession or at home and has had their life made better because of what he does. What does Steve Jobs think about risk? The greatest artists like Dylan, Picasso, and Newton risked failure, and if we want to be great, we've got to risk it too. I got one more quote, and I want to leave this with you, particularly again for the students that I alluded to a minute ago. You don't want to live your life with regrets. I tell my sons and my daughter every day, you want to wake up and say, not what if. You don't want any regrets. Mark Twain says this, 20 years from now, you'll be more disappointed by the things you didn't do than the ones you did. So throw off the bowlines, sail away from the safe harbor, catch the trade winds in your sails, explore, dream, discover. So when I was in business school, I had a professor who always said, after the 3.5-hour lecture, what's the takeaways? Here they are. My message for you today, you only have one life to live, so live it to the fullest. Take calculated risks. Don't be afraid to fail, because as I said, you will. But when you do, pick yourself up, learn from your mistakes, continue to persevere, and live your life every day with no regrets. Thank you all for coming, taking time in your lunch hour. Have a great rest of the year.